One of the most eye-opening experiences and hard pills to swallow as a man when you look back at the last year, the last 6 months, and you realized you've completely wasted every single waking moment. Maybe you try something for a little bit, you put it down when you don't get the results right away. Or maybe you look back at the last 5 years and you've realized you've been living a shadow life, a life that is adjacent to the one you actually want, but it's really keeping you in the exact same place. And most men end up wasting their 20s without even realizing it. And I'm not talking about doing drugs, partying, just pissing away all their money. I mean, in a life that is close enough to what they actually want. Maybe they have a well-paying job. Maybe they almost have the physique they want, but they're just not quite there yet to really get the benefits. And they are comfortable enough to accept this as who they are, but not uncomfortable enough to actually change. And I did this for the majority of my 20s until I was 26. And over the last 2 years, where I've been able to gain quite a bit of momentum, succeed at the things I want, and craft my dream reality, I have learned a few lessons along the way that I want to share with you guys, because these are honestly the key things that you need to learn as early as possible in your life if you want to be able to excel in any endeavor. I don't care if this is with your physique, with business, whatever skill you are trying to get better at, this video is going to be for you, because these lessons are things that I learned along the way. And when they hit you like you're running into a brick wall. So we're going to break down about 5 or 6 things that I've learned over the last year and a half, that every single time I reach a new level, whether that be my discipline, my standards, my habits, my lifestyle, I always fall back on these exact same lessons because they keep on repeating until you learn them. The first one, which honestly might actually be the most important one, is you need to confront your reality with brutal honesty. And this is one of the hardest pills to swallow, because most guys are never actually going to do this, because when you actually start analyzing your life and the gap between who you are currently right now and where you want to get to, not the story you tell yourself about how good you are with women. No, the actual gap between the life you knew you were capable of, your potential, and what you're currently doing right now to achieve it. It's very difficult to see from an honest perspective. And I was lucky enough to get this realization or confrontation at a very young age. When I was 12 years old, my dad owned a bricklaying company. It wasn't a big company. It was basically like him, like sole proprietor. And he would make me basically do laboring for him during every single summer. So when I was 12, 13, and 14, 7 days a week, I would have to basically carry buckets of concrete in the sun for 12 hours a day. And of course, it's his job. He really cares about it. He's hardworking. He wants to stay there till the job is done every single time. And so I learned a lot of lessons during this period, but it made me realize what it actually takes to succeed. And one time what he did, which was really like earth-shattering for me at the time, is the architect pulled up and he had like a nice Beamer, he had a nice suit on, he was wearing sunglasses. He shows up to the job site and he points at him and he says, look, if you want to be successful, don't do what I'm fucking doing, and basically go to school or work at something, become very skilled at something so you can get rich in the future, because you do not want to be here the rest of your life. And that was for damn sure, because working on that job site was probably one of the fucking worst things I ever did, but it taught me so many lessons. When I say you need to confront your reality with brutal honesty, what I'm basically saying is you need to look at yourself in the most honest perspective possible. You need to look at what your limitations are. What are the habits and things you always fall back on? What is actually running the show behind the scenes? You need to do some shadow work and start looking internally and start figuring out, why do I keep repeating the same things over and over again, yet I still tell myself I'm going to succeed? Because the truth is, that gap that I spoke about, where you are now and the version of yourself you want to be, your potential, has nothing to do with your circumstances, the way you were brought up, how successful or rich your family was. At the end of the day, it all comes down to your competence and your skill. And the truth is, it is just a skill gap. You have not put the time in to actually get good enough at anything where you bring enough value, or you are not worthy of the things you want. Whether that's the physique you want, you haven't put the work in. Maybe that's the business you want. You haven't even started the business. You've been mentally masturbating it for years and years, and you're basically sitting on the sideline bench warming in your own life, and you have forgotten that you are in control. You are the driver's seat. You are player one, and you have every capability, but you always get in your own way. So you need to not only analyze yourself internally, but you need to analyze the things around you, your environment, the way other people act, and start really looking at people who maybe you idolize, maybe you want to be like, maybe you want to be in their position. You need to start figuring out how they talk, how they operate on a daily basis, the standards they have, the environments in which they put themselves in, and start really reverse engineering those things and start acting that way before you have any of the fruits in reality. You need to believe you already have it. You need to act like it is already yours. And once you start doing this, you will start noticing that opportunities start coming to you a lot easier and you start gaining progress really fast. At the end of the day, life is just a video game. You are just playing in a video game right now, and if this was a video game, you would just be sitting in Tutorial Island or the second city, only 50 levels in, rather than going all the way to 100, and you're just complacent. This took me a very long time to realize, and once I started doing this, things started to compound very fast. I was working in sales 9 to 5. I thought I was doing well, but in reality, yeah, I was getting paid good money, but this was nothing near what I actually wanted. I saw other people online living the life I wanted, making money online, traveling, keep on progressing and building their character, and I was doing none of that. And it wasn't until I made a decision that I was going to become that version of myself that things started to change. I bought my camera 6 years ago, mentally masturbated about the idea of starting a YouTube or a YouTube channel. It wasn't until I made the decision that I was actually going to do it, and I didn't care when it was going to happen, because the actual benefits and the reward was me pursuing the character development. Confront your reality, not only internally, but also in your environment. Figure out where the opportunities lie. Be yourself and push yourself to the limit, because at the end of the day, everything in life is all about skill acquisition. And if you do not have the things you want, it is simply a skill issue. You're just simply not good enough to even desire those things, to even have them, to acquire them in the real world. Because what I've realized over the last year and a half, almost 2 years now, is that getting the physique you want, that's 10% body fat, lean aesthetic, where you're extremely confident and you have unwavering self-belief that carries over to other things, or getting the business up to 10, 20, 50, 60K a month, is literally all comes down to your character, and your income or your external body will never outweigh your self-image, the way you see yourself. And you need to prove yourself every single day you wake up that you are that guy, or else it is never going to happen. Because every day you wake up, you have to look at it as day one. It is Monday morning. It doesn't matter if it's Sunday, Saturday, Friday. It is day one, your first day on the job, and you need to come from a position of, I know nothing, I need to learn, I need to become better, and I need to focus on just leveling up and not the end outcome. Because once you get it, it won't even feel good, to be honest. You'll have a brief sigh of relief, and then you will look again at actually progressing, because that is where the fulfillment comes from. Number 2, your lows will always precede your highs. And when I say lows, I mean the lowest fucking point in your life where you feel like you've hit rock bottom and everything is fucked. And the reason why this is going to happen is because oftentimes when we hit our highs, we also get complacent, which almost creates a symbiotic relationship or a cycle. But your lows create urgency. And really what it is God, the universe, whatever it may be, showing you something that needs to change, that you have been letting creep into your life or keep happening until it smacks you in the face and you know you need to change. And this has happened to me more times than I can count over the last 2 years. There have been times where I thought I was fucked and I was going to have to move back home, and I found a way to make it work, because it lights a fire under your ass and you literally have no other choice. The problem is when you're working a 9 to 5, you know the paycheck is coming. You know you have some resemblance of stability. You know that if anything goes wrong, at the end of the day, it's not really on you to win or lose. But once you start going into this entrepreneurial aspect of life, which I 100% recommend every single one of you do, especially in the modern world coming up with everyone getting fired because of AI and white-collar jobs are going to become obsolete, the lows in your life are the prerequisite for you to get the character development to achieve the highs. And you should be more grateful for the lows, because they are forcing you to grow. A lot of people, when they hit these lows, though, they complain. They blame it on everything but themselves. They say it's the environment they're in. They say it's someone did this to me. Oh, this is the circumstances I grew up with. At the end of the day, you have to realize your lows, and the more shit you go through, the better. That is what made you who you are. That is giving you an opportunity to be the underdog, to level up, and now have a story to come from nothing to something. Everything is an opportunity that you can change into something good regardless of how bad it is. There's always a lesson in the losses, and you need to start reversing those things and just expect for a low to come and be grateful for it, because it will happen. There's no way to avoid it. When was the last time you went 4 months in your life without there being a low? It literally doesn't happen. It doesn't exist. There's always going to be something coming up. And I'll tell you guys, when I moved across the world, I left Vancouver making $1,000 a month, and I moved to Bangkok, a city I'd never been to before. I hated Bangkok. I hated the city. It was terrible. It wasn't aligned to me. It wasn't where I wanted to be. And at the time, I was doing very generic fitness coaching, and it wasn't aligned with who I am. That's not what I want to talk about. There's so much more depth to what I want to deliver and what I want to help people do inside my program. And so it wasn't aligned, and I almost thought about even transitioning to a different business model like e-com. And as soon as that happened and I was ready to pull the trigger and buy a mentorship for e-com, I ended up meeting someone who told me to post on YouTube every day and just say what I authentically believe. Just be myself and say what I truly think and believe in my perspective. And that's when everything started to change. And that was a big low for me. So don't be afraid of these things. Actually embrace them. Mine them for data. Really reflect on yourself on these periods, because that is where the gold is found. Number 3, you have to make your sole purpose skill acquisition. This is the single most important thing in your life, because it's the only thing you actually own. And one of the biggest problems I realized when I was working in my 9 to 5, not living the life I actually wanted to, I was coasting and not actually developing the skills I needed to. And you feel like you're making progress because maybe your bank account's going up slightly. Maybe you feel like you got a nicer car, or you got a better apartment, whatever it may be. But are you actually developing anything, or are you just showing up and doing what you're supposed to do? See, at the end of the day, as soon as you get fired, you're left with nothing. Now you can't afford those things. But if you have the actual skill, you have put in the time, you've delayed gratification for years and years, 10,000 hours to become elite at whatever thing it is. Maybe it's AI, maybe it's content creation, maybe it's sales. I don't know. If you put that time in there, you are always going to be able to create an income and build the life you want. And that's why your 20s should be focused on you becoming literally the best in the field at whatever the thing is that you like to do, or the thing that intrigues you. And put all your eggs in that basket, and then start taking what you learned from that skill and start branching it out. So you become 9, 10 out of 10 in one thing, one skill, and then start acquiring skills adjacent to it. So you become a little bit multidimensional. Become exceptionally good at one skill. Take what you learned, the traits and the character development that you had to have to acquire that level of skill, and now start placing it in different aspects, different skills, and become good at those things. Number 4, you need to go all in on the life you want. And the life you want isn't actually a destination. It is a decision you make, and then you already have it. As I said earlier, the progression and the character development is the real reward. That end goal you're thinking about won't actually mean that much when you get it, and it will just feel like your new baseline and your new normal. But I have to put this in perspective. A lot of guys who watch my videos are 25, 35, around that age. Quite a few at 40 as well, but the average age for a male, the average lifespan is 75. For the first 18, you're not in control, really. You know, you're in school, you're being kind of told what to do, you have to kind of obey your parents. The last 10, your health is declining. So how much time do you really have to pursue the life you want? Not much. You maybe have 25, 35 years, depending on how old you are right now. You need to make the decision that that life you want is going to be yours, and you have to go all in on it. And I did this exact same thing. I remember right before I moved to Bangkok, about 6 months prior, I hadn't started my business yet, but I was on a walk with my good friend Blake. He was my neighbor, best friend since elementary school. We went for a walk. We were rolling up cigarettes and we were smoking them out of the tin. And we basically made a pact that night where we were both going to start businesses and change the trajectory of our life, because we just started reflecting and seeing things honestly. We both had the same job. We started seeing people get 5-year awards, 10-year awards at the company. And the thought of still being there literally made me sick. It literally made me not want to live anymore. I was ready to paint the walls red. So we made a pact. I started my business. I immediately started getting people in shape for free. I bought a mentor straight away, be like, okay, how do I do this? I need to figure out the gap between where I'm at now and the life I want to live. And then I booked a ticket. I booked a ticket across the world, and I paid to get into a network, which was like $10,000 at the time. I think it was like a third or a little less than a third of my entire bank account balance, because I was that committed to making sure it was possible. Now, if you do this, it is almost inevitable that you will succeed at one point, but you are not going to know how long it's going to take. And that is okay. It's the same with the physique. Some people ask me, Andrew, how long is it going to take me? We don't know. It depends how committed you are. But at the end of the day, if you already identify as the person, the version of you that has that life, you're going to get there eventually. But no one knows how long it's going to take. And at the end of the day, the end goal isn't going to be that rewarding. So enjoy the present. Enjoy actually becoming that version of yourself and the character development along the way, because that is what is fulfilling your purpose. Now, speaking of that move that I made to Bangkok, it taught me a very important lesson that I still learn now, and that is that your environment is basically an invisible ceiling that you don't even realize it's there. It's invisible. Because when you start seeing everyone around you, maybe they're all making 60, 80K a year, whatever it is, and they all have the same habits, they all go out on the weekend, whatever, you think this is normal. Maybe you see a couple guys winning, but in that environment, winning is only 100K a year, and they're not going out on the weekends, and maybe they have a girl, whatever it is. And you think that is the peak, the pinnacle. But once you start leveling up, like when I joined this network and I started being in rooms when I was making $1,000 a month, there was 20-year-olds 6 years younger than me making 50K a month, 100K a month. I'm going, how the fuck is that even fucking possible? But it also made me realize, if he can do it, then why can't I do it? What's actually stopping me? And the only thing, again, is the skill acquisition. So you need to make sure you're curating your environment to be around people that are ahead of you. And you need to make sure that you have value from your own skill acquisition that you can provide to them, and you will get value back. Your environment sets the baseline for what you see as normal, and you need to make sure you're increasing that baseline, because it's going to inevitably rise your standards to that environment. A rising tide raises all ships. Lastly, the one that ties it all together is you need to get your body right. This is literally imperative. Getting your physique in shape, and I mean truly getting lean, number one, gives you the first initial proof that you are capable of reaching your potential, and it's the lowest hanging fruit. It's one of the easiest things to actually accomplish. It is the easiest hard thing that you will ever do. Getting lean is going to take you 6 months of hard work. 6 months of delayed gratification, and you also get feedback from your body quite quickly. You start eating better, you start getting more pumps in the gym. The pumps starts basically, you see yourself more muscular from the future. You diet for a week, you already look leaner. Nothing else in life is going to be that easy and that much of a feedback loop that is so fast. Once you start getting your body in right, the things it takes to actually get lean and build the physique you want, the standards, the habits, bleed into everything. The people you start surrounding yourself with, your environment, your business, how you actually carry yourself on a daily basis. You speak with more conviction and confidence. And this is going to allow you to level up extremely quickly compared to other people. Because when you are in shape and you walk in a room, people treat you differently. You get a different level of respect, and this is where opportunities start to rise up. And I have so many stories about when this happened for me personally, but also when it's happened for clients as well. Getting opportunities, being moved up from number 16 in the company to number 2. That is the type of leverage you get when you truly get in shape. But most importantly, it's the way you view yourself, the internal shift that happens when you build this type of physique. So that is absolutely imperative. The body is really the foundation, and it'll make progressing in all these other areas a lot faster, and it'll also teach you a few of these lessons, just not to the same extent. That's why I recommend get in shape first, build the physique, build that confidence and that unwavering self-belief, and then start attacking your other goals. If you feel like you've been spinning your wheels and you do not have the lean aesthetic body you want, the confidence that comes with it, or the lifestyle after, and you actually want to make it inevitable that you can get there, that's exactly what I do inside my one-on-one program. If you're interested, follow me on Instagram @BressI, DM me the word elite. We can talk one-on-one about where you're currently at right now and where you're trying to get to, and how we can fill that gap and make sure not only you get in shape, but you get the respect, you get the opportunities, and you also join a network full of 50 plus guys that are all killing it, entrepreneurs trying to become the top 1% in every single area.